There we go. Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome to the Catalyst Energies channel. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I'm so grateful that you are here. And I am joined by KIAYANA of AURORA Creative Healing. Take it away, KIAYANA.
So excited to be here, guys. Really excited to share the stage with Denise today. As she said, I am KIAYANA of AURORA Creative Healing. I'm a healer, diviner, and channeler, and really just looking forward to tapping into these energies of the Lion's Gate with you guys today and diving deep and, I'm just ready.
Yeah, me too. I am absolutely ready. We were talking before we actually came on live and just, checking in about how potent everything is. And I was just sharing with KIAYANA about how I woke up today and I was kind of bouncing off the walls. I was really glowing. And I woke up actually really pissed off because my cat was like, wake up and feed me. And I was like, I can't wake up this way. So I went back to sleep. And when I did is when I got, my own contact and visitation experience from the SIRIUS. And so at least in terms of my own family and soul tribe, and it just feels so intense. So I'm just so glad that you guys are joining us. This is the first time KIAYANA and I have ever done this collaboration experience before. So this is new. And KIAYANA, I just want to say that I listened to the channeling that you had offered to the Catalyst Classrooms subscribers. And I listened to it this morning again, and it was just so profoundly on point, especially in terms of our real mission here, especially as identified starseeds, is to be in the experience. And so there's something here about, of course, we planned a lot of the logistical aspects, but we kind of walked into this without very much framework at all. And I felt like that was just, we were so guided to do that so that we could have the experience of the moment. So thank you for that channeling, by the way. And I'm so looking forward to what you have to offer today. So I'm going to offer the astrology of the Lion's Gate. I'm going to go into the specifics. I got some charts. We're going to look up to the spring equinox, which seems to be the time of truly the harvest moment of this eye of the needle. And I'm so excited for what KIAYANA's going to offer as well. So I'm going to see I'm checking in with the chat right now, and hello and happy Sunday from the one sweet salty dog. Oh, it's Tamara. Oh boy. One of our Catalyst Classroom and Starseed Fellowship folks. And I'm so happy to see her on the chat. So KIAYANA, before I launch into astrology, and as you know, as you know how it goes with me, it can really just go off on this stream of consciousness. I wanted to see what you wanted to bring forward just in general during this time, and just getting warmed up to the Lion's Gate and what it means for you, I guess, and what your experience so far has been leading up to this incredibly potent time.
So for me, there has been, with many in the collective, I'm sure, this period of shedding and really rediscovering who, and not just who, but what I am at the core of my being. And so it doesn't necessarily happen very prettily in our 3D reality. And so in the months leading up to now, it has been difficult. I have been cycling through these periods of death and rebirth and having to allow false identities that I had adopted over time to fall away from me, and to fall away in order for me to really anchor in who I am at my core. And so this has been a process. And one of the things that I really want to bring in today is a message of how important it is to create and to allow oneself to be seen from where you are in this moment.
Oh, yes.
There's such an importance, as we had kind of mentioned earlier, about allowing oneself to be vulnerable and allowing oneself to be seen. And I feel like there's so many of us in the collective who need to hear the message of, it doesn't matter where you are in your path, you still have something so significant, so important to bring to the collective that only you, your energy, your soul can bring. So like today, I'm walking into this, y'all. I went to spirit and I was like, is there anything specific, that you can give me to bring into this today? And their message to me was that, that this, in so many words, it's meant for me to release and let go. I know that there are going to be some beautiful healings that take place today. I know that there are going to be some beautiful activations that take place today. And how that manifests, I don't know. It's going to be different from person to person, but I am just here to be a clear channel and to, hopefully help bring some clarity and some healing and some insight today. So yeah.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, there was so many moments in that I was just like, boom, boom, like just bullseye, one after the other. And today, if I can jump a little bit into the astrology without getting too caught up in the stream, one of the things I've been talking about a lot in my work is this triple conjunction in Taurus with Uranus, Mars, and the North Node of the Moon, or Rahu. And for people who are not as astrologically, savvy, I guess, or want to learn more, these are things that my tribe of people know. Because I talk about it all the time, because I'm broadcasting pretty regularly about this stuff. And this triple conjunction, it's like, if there was ever a time to squeegee your third eye and to just blow open the doors of your outer perception so that it can just be purified, your own consciousness, now would be the time, because you have the energy of Mars behind it, which is our action and this propulsion, outwards. Uranus, of course, the higher consciousness, which you and I, as Aquarius people, this is our planetary ruler. So again, there's that unexpected, that if you did expect it, it wouldn't have the tremendous power that it would have otherwise, right? You also may end up sabotaging yourself, right? So Uranus has got this kind of almost trickster quality to it. And then you have Rahu, the North Node, the head of the dragon of the soul that is pulling us all to evolve right now. And so this triple conjunction with Uranus in particular is exact tomorrow, but the Uranian and North Node element as of today, 3:30 p.m. Eastern, they will be exactly conjunct, at least longitudinally. In the view of us in our night sky, you don't see the North Node because it's a position. It's a position of where the lunar orbit crosses the ecliptic plane around the sun. So it represents this karmic type of journey, all of us as a soul. There is a space being made here in the very essence of material reality that we experience it as, right? And that goes from your resources, physically, financially, genetically, your body, the state of your health, your energy resources, the planet itself, and the way that it maintains a loop, right? A rhythm of energetic pulsation and oscillation. These are all very Taurus types of energies. There's a space being created very forcefully in some cases, very bravely in others, but it's like a stick of dynamite and Mars is lighting the fuse and Uranus is like, whoops, there's the explosion, and you don't know where it's going to happen. You just know that it's going to create this space where something spontaneous can move. And in some ways, it's going to give us the clearing away of debris for our souls to be like, there we go. That's the space in order for this to come forward. And the double-edged nature of these nodal, all the planets have nodes, but in particular in evolutionary astrology with Pluto and the nodes of the moon really showing us the trajectory of our soul's journey, it's you can get kind of obsessed, just like a dragon can get kind of caught up in the compulsion to gather more power, gather more resources. And it really has to do with your intention of why you are being, what is it that you are being driven towards and why. So that's where the free will comes in, right? And our choice about this. But I mean, without the space and without the clearing away, like you talked about, there's not going to be the space for the inundation, which is really what Sirius rising is all about, is the time of the inundation. And in fact, that is actually one of the 3 seasons in the ancient Egyptian calendar. So in Sirius, it does represent Isis in that cosmology. And I know we've talked a lot about like our different starseed and past life lineages. And you've actually talked about this connection with kind of the Egyptian area. I don't know if there's anything specific that is coming through or that you want to share about that. I've been getting more into it personally. Like I can feel this connection to that part of the Atlantean lineage as it's spread out. And we're going to talk about that today too. But I was just curious if you have anything that has come through, or more in terms of the Syrian nature that is presenting itself or has for you that you want to bring forward, because I feel such a strong connection like from like you in that lineage, more so than myself, right? I feel like my post-Atlantean lineage is way more the Yucatan and the Mayan kind of indigenous. That's been a lot of where my real big breakthrough work in this area has been through Quetzalcoatl and Ixchel, right? The goddess with the snake on her head, right? The healing element. So I really would like to open it up to you and see what's coming. I can already tell. I mean, I'm feeling it really, really strong right now. So yeah.
In this moment, like what I'm feeling is like this opening of the heart space.
Big time.
And there is a call, like, and I'm just going to speak what's coming through because I'm not quite sure where it aligns in the astrology, but I know that you probably will. So there is this call for there's this call for an acceptance of self in all aspects of self, not just the pretty parts, right? So what I'm hearing is that we're not here to seek perfection. We're here to find acceptance and truth of the self. Again, not the identities that we have adopted, through conditioning and through circumstance, but an acceptance of the self and all that entails, right? So like what's being shown to me in regards to Egypt and the part that they played as originals, because that's what is coming through the quote unquote originals. I guess you could say those that came to help humanity to evolve long time ago, right? In these Egyptian times, the gods and goddesses that, were revered and things of that nature, who are connected to that Sirius star, to those from the stars, the celestial beings, right? And so this knowledge that there was a period of time in which they came here in order to help humanity evolve in more of a hands-on way. And there are like a lot of these mixed feelings, you know, in regards to free will and, you know, us living this human experience and being here. But, you know, it's not this search for perfection. And, you know, there were mistakes that were made and actions that were taken, you know, that in turn led to a destruction of sorts. And I'm not really sure like where they're leading me on this, but it's just a lot.
Yeah.
I know that one of the messages that came through was that there is a regret here, there is a sadness here, because, you know, their goal was to in turn help humanity, and in some cases it led to a destruction or the destruction of self. And it's kind of like that cycle of death and rebirth where we're now at a place where we're having to unearth who we are all over again. Especially those of us that are on this path of, you know, helping the collective to awaken, or, you know, the ascension process and things like that. And it's just like this overall message of, you know, it's not about seeking perfection. It's not about being perfect. It's about an acceptance of self and all that we are in all of our lifetimes and all that we are in this moment. So it's a lot of energy. I hope that it made sense.
It made plenty sense. It made plenty sense.
So
for sure.
it's a lot, but that's what I saw going back to that time in that space of, as I know them, as they introduced themselves to me as the originals, right? But yes.
Wow. So the first thing I did, I was just like, I need some rose quartz, like stat, because like the heart, I mean, it's still really sitting here. And I can say there's a couple of things that I can add to that in terms of the grief is very palpable. I have many clients who have their Pleiadian starseed markings, at least some of them, in relation to Chiron in some way. And I think that's part of the story of certainly of what you're talking about, because of the Atlantean destruction and then the migration outwards to these different areas that have seemed to hold on to or attempt to share, like you were talking about, with the people, it's not so much the secrets as much as the wisdom of how to live in harmony and equilibrium with an higher density experience. And it seems like it's so emotional, because without, and the Draco story is really big in this. As soon as you started talking about perfection, and I promise you, this is all written into the astrology of the next 6 weeks. It's going to be profound. This is where they went sideways, I think, is that they got locked into the perfection of their form rather than the perfection of their surrender or commitment to embodying source, right? Or divinity or sacred great spirit, however they conceptualize it. And the thing that actually is really hitting home, and as someone who has a Draco, really strong Draco, it's the grief of the star seeds that have come in with these Draco connections and living the human experience on the other side of what that infiltration and what that it was distorted view of what perfection really means. When you feel it as in the other, basically in the other person's shoes, but you have the resonance of this really strong dragon energy that went badly, as we just talked about with the nodes there. Oh, it's just so much grief and like guilt and kind of, but without that experience, you don't get even those beings, right? Those beings that we identify as somehow better or more advanced than we are, right? I mean, I think you could probably say that the Draco have advanced themselves to the point where they can, they're attempting to create life as God creates life. And it has driven them to be obsessed with this because they have lost their connection to source as a soul, and that's their journey. But imagine bringing that journey into the human experience with all of the human feels and all of the other experiences for star seeds that have multiple connections to what has been happening, especially here. It's very complicated, and sometimes I think we have emotional experiences that we can't really identify that are so powerful that they humble us, right? They bring you to your knees and you're like, why do I feel this? And I can say that I felt this personally at the last Scorpio eclipse, right, that we had earlier in the summer. It was one of those moments that I was like on my knees for a reason I couldn't actually identify in my everyday life. But I knew it was layer upon layer upon layer down to the depth of where power comes from and why we're here to release ourselves from our own karma, right? And it's converging from so many different places that we have to be something remarkable to be able to hold the amount of resonance in a third density experience like this. It's not an easy mission. We're all star seeds, right? Like our souls on this earth are from source. So, and they've come from, all kinds of experiences, but the mission of the star seed is a different thing, I feel like. And it's a very intentional waking up to, I am a spiritual being in a human experience. And as you said so poignantly, that everybody's contribution is unique and indispensable to the whole. Yeah. And until we let go of that old Draco story that really is the result of their own, God, I can't even say it without just like holding that and not in a negative way or like in the toxic empath way of just like, I felt it and now I know what it feels like. And in fact, I think many starseeds have done multiple human incarnations in so much worse situations than we're in right now as a means to prepare every angle of feeling about what it means to exploit or to empower, right? To be on both sides of those things. And the perfection is what keeps us from actually forgiving ourselves and moving forward, as you talked about, because it never will be perfect until you come back into merging with source. Like that's the whole point of it. Is to see how close you can get. What I think is interesting about your connection to the Egyptian cosmology and how it relates to Sirius, Osiris, and Isis, and even, the birth of Horus or the sun, right? Essentially, or that solar energy is without the space being created for the inundation of the waters of our soul, which was so beautifully realized in the natural cycle of the flooding of the Nile. There is no space for the beloved to enter and activate us, right? And so the eye of the needle and the Lion's Gate every year feels to me like that moment where we have to shed the burden because we can't go through the portal. And this year is more powerful than I have felt in a really, really long time. Even more, it almost feels more powerful than the eclipse of 2017 that was after this, that Lion's Gate, then we had that eclipse. That was remarkable, but this feels way more of us are awake. That's why I think that's what it is. More of us are just awake. And so it's that much more like reverberating right now. So, wow, that was powerful right then and there. And everybody's been experiencing, haven't they? I bet you can speak to your own experiences with your clients, your own personal life. I know with my clients too, and my readings, these eye of the needle readings that I'm doing is just like, people are really like, it's time now. It's time to step up. Like, you are here to be a priestess. You are here to be a healer. You are here to be a shaman, like, for this process. And there's no turning back now. And I feel like for all of the people who are still like not quite there, it's like they're going to try to go through the eye of the needle with all the shit on their camel. And it's just going to all get, you know what I mean? It's going to get, can't do it. And so it's going to force away all of that material comfort that many of us have been relying on. And this is Pluto all day, right? Pluto and Capricorn. So that's where it's going to be also very difficult, is to hold a space for that, for people who were not paying attention, didn't know, or their soul contract was like, this is part of it, is to just go through this really powerfully dramatic kind of like shedding of a skin. It's like multiple. So wow, that was whoo-wee. I'm gonna check in here and just kind of check in with the chat real quick. Tasha is here. Light on Change, looking good. Dee and Kiana, thank you so much. Tasha says that she she says, I'm feeling really activated, and I feel like I can really identify with that as well. I brought out some lapis lazuli as well when you were giving that message at one point, because that is where I felt like the connection between our throat chakra and even like that third eye, right? You squeegee that third eye, like, think how much more resonant your throat and your voice can be when it has somewhere clear to, like, you know, be channeled into or from. So I got that out too. Lapis lazuli is a really great tool for that as well. So wow. I don't even know what to say.
The energy is so beautiful. And it is so heart-centered. I haven't felt this strong, because I had been wearing jade, but for some reason today I felt led not to wear it, and I feel like it may have been like overwhelming to have the jade and have all of this coming through, you know. But there's something so significant, like you said, this year is different, and I'm a feeler, like, so for me it sometimes gets hard to translate what I'm feeling, but there really is in some cases a need for this upheaval, because it puts you in a position to where, you know, I can speak for myself when I say it takes a few nudges from spirit sometimes before I will do a thing, or, you know, especially if it feels extremely uncomfortable for me. And sometimes it takes that upheaval and like things being shaken up in order for me to settle and be like, okay, I'm in a position now where I can't figure things out my mind, you know, the answer isn't in my mind, right? The answer isn't something that can be found through the scope of the ego. I'm at this point where all I can do is be still and surrender to process, and where my higher self and spirit is leading me in this moment, which is kind of what got me here.
But we've been feeling it for a while.
Right.
Wouldn't you say that? Yeah, like we both separately have been feeling the collaboration, like we knew it was coming,
Yes.
but we didn't know when. And so as
Right.
soon as we let go of, and I learned this finally, and of course we all have more to learn of all these things, but one of the things I realized when it was over and over and over again is like the timing is always perfect. So when you let go of trying to control something that you really just is so much bigger than just your own ego's ability to do so, you just realize that it's all part of this sacred fractal that's unfolding, and time is part of that bigger picture. So just let it go.
Let it flow.
Right? Yeah, let it flow. Now, what I can say about that, when you said personally, and I can relate to this, is again, this Aquarius theme here for both of us, if I can use us as guinea pigs here, astrologically, is that the Aquarius rising person has Taurus as the fourth house. Now, depending on where that cusp is, it's going to be third or fourth, but generally the emotional root system of the Aquarius person is very much based on the sense-based feels, right? The magnetism, the natural rhythm of the natural world. And a Taurus type of person is going to be very difficult to get to do things because it's a fixed earth energy. And so you and I, it takes that nudge, because otherwise you were just out in the field chomping grass and just being like, I just want to be Ferdinand smelling the flowers, right? That's where my emotional center is with nature, or the fixed natural rhythm. And so it's that rhythm that needs to start oscillating different before we are like, okay, I guess we should do something different or feel something different. And in this case, with this triple conjunction of Mars and Uranus in the North Node for people, Aquarius rising people, for instance. And the reason I'm picking on us is not only because we're both Aquarius, but because we are coming into the age of Aquarius. And 2024 is when Pluto will be permanently in Aquarius. So Aquarius identified people are really about to have the biggest change in their lives, just like the Capricorn people with Pluto and Capricorn have been going through the biggest overhaul and transformation of their very identity that they've ever experienced. And so to have the actual vibration of the physical world, or the rhythm of nature, or any of those things, for Uranus and Mars in the North Node to create again that space for something new to rise, it's in the places where we feel the most safe and secure and in our consciousness. And it really will take like that whole realm to be, it needs to be, like you said, we need the disruption, like the wave pattern needs to get bigger or more erratic. And it's like, I don't know what the Schumann is doing, but it's doing something that is allowing for us to at least sometimes tap into whatever the Earth's heartbeat is doing, right? When we can tap in to that resonance, when we know that it's not artificially induced, because personally, I feel like there's sometimes that the Schumann is a response to something that's not natural, but that's for another day. But I do feel like if we're talking about the heart, and the heart as an electric pump, an electromagnetic field that comes off of our heart, and the magnetic signature from our heart, like that's going to be what surrounds us and allows for our growth, but also not shielding, but you know what I mean, like a buffer, a space of interaction, as opposed to just being soon to be really, the sun is going to start flaring like any day, like it's going to pick up. It's just what is part of our solar cycle. And so without that increased magnetism from our heart space getting bigger and brighter and stronger from love, then without that, we are so much more susceptible to what happens when the sun shines and there's no water, which is a desert, right? See what's happened in other situations where that has transpired, esoterically, exoterically, symbolically. It's all the same. It's all the same experience. It's just now in a very physical form. So I just thought that was interesting how you brought that up about you needing the nudge and being like, That's the Taurus energy for the Aquarius person, is right in the root system. You have to be physically transplanted in some way in order to actually be inspired to deepen the root system when it's disrupted or the ground shifts or something like that. And that's not easy, right? It's not like it's you can just get up and sprout legs as a plant, for instance, and just walk over to another place. And, you know, you kind of have to live out the rest of the cycle, but we're not plants. And I think not that we're superior, it's just we're different, and we are viewed with a consciousness that allows us mobility in a different way. And so we do that through our choices, I think.
Yes.
So it's interesting. And just, of course, very insightful. I don't even know why you were concerned. I was just like, just don't even, like, it's just going to come through and we won't even be able to help ourselves. How do you feel about some astrology? Just kind of look at what's going to be going on on the Lionsgate and seeing.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to share the screen here and bring it into our awareness here. So I'm going to try to, there we go. And for the people in the chat, let us know if everything's going good. Alicia's in the chat.
Alicia's here.
Yeah, she said, I'm late, but I'm so excited to be here. She says, I feel exhausted and really have just been resting and lazy, but have had zero motivation for anything. I think that both I personally, and I'm pretty sure KIAYANA too, like we've both been feeling that as well, just exhausted. Yesterday when we came together and we were like, hold on one second, let me bring up the actual chart here. I want to be able to read the chat actually. So yesterday when we came together and we were just chatting and we were just kind of going over like how we're feeling about things and what's going on. And KIAYANA is just expressing a very normal reaction, I think, which is to be, you know, have nerves, right? To be excited about something like this, right? So it's a good thing. And I was like, don't worry, I don't even have the energy. I have no energy to even be like nervous. I don't have any to expend to like be worried about anything. So I was like, don't even worry about it. Like I can't even be worried because I'm just exhausted. Now I know for me, I've had a lot of output personally. So that's part of it as well. And I feel like with the Starseed stuff with people in general to expect that. The output is going to start needing, like, got to find your rhythm while you can, because the output is going to be necessary for other people, right? This is what we're here to do. And we're not here to save anybody, right? We're here to experience it. But the connection is part of the experience, right? To connect through love and a sense of mutual respect and compassion for each other. And sometimes we get scared and we pull in, and this is the Procyon story all day long, right? That we get scared and we come in, and this is what you shared with me with your soul readings, right? That there was a wall that was put up, right? Do you want to share a little bit about that before I go back into the chart? Because the Procyon story is something that with my subscribers, we've spent a whole month talking about Lilith and then Sirius and Procyon, but I'd really like you to share what you share in your readings about Procyon, because I think it's really relevant.
Right. So one of the interesting things about Procyon is that there's not a lot known about it.
Right.
So from my knowledge of it, there came a point to where Procyon decided that, you know, they wanted to close their gate, so close access in and out. So any souls that, you know, were from that place couldn't return. Or I guess I'm not even sure if there was like opportunity to leave if they wanted to leave. But what we know is that there is no access, like no clear access or portal or gate. To and from Procyon. Another thing about the Procyons is that sun is very important. So sunlight is extremely important to them. Breath work, extremely important, because it's believed also that these souls are the ones that brought breath breatharianism. Is that
breatharianism?
Breatharianism, right? To Earth. So this practice of using the breath in order to receive, of course, like energy and nutrients and everything you need. So instead of having to use food and water, you would use the breath. So breath work is extremely important to those who may be Procyon or, have a connection to Procyon or Procyon, as Denise said. So, I mean, there's not like a whole lot known about it. For me, speaking from a more intuitive place, and like now knowing that I do have markings from the star system, it explains a lot about how a soul may feel as though they are lost or stuck from home, like they can't return home. This feeling of never being able to return home, like this feeling of being left behind, or desolate. It's there's this part of me that like wishes that I could learn more like about it, because I feel like there is such a strong connection, especially now that's been coming through, even like in dream state.
Yeah, I have the same experience. It was one of those things where it wasn't until I was actually studying it for the sake of the fixed stars and the starseed readings that it started to become really resonant within me. So I actually circled here the axis of Procyon, which you can see that Pluto's retrograde in Capricorn, late Capricorn, has been sitting across from Procyon. So I actually do have some stuff I could share. And there's way more if you subscribe to the Catalyst Classroom, and you'll have access to all this information, all the slides, the presentations. But basically Procyon as a star is it's a binary star. And I think I kind of started to figure out maybe why it happened, because the one star, Procyon B, it's a dwarf. It's a white dwarf, which means it's already past its main sequence and has died. So it's still emitting heat because it's a star that is still emitting heat, right? But it's no longer emitting light, and that's a really important distinction. And so I'm wondering, so Procyon A is still a star that is it's a very large, like subgiant star, and it's close to the end of its main sequence. And imagine if you could start to see some of these stories really play themselves out in a global stage here and in the past, right? Imagine waves of refugees coming from the Procyon B system, nowhere to go because their star has been dying. And the ones that maybe had figured out how to utilize the breatharian abilities to manage to evolve, even though their sun was not emitting light. There's one part of it, but then you may find that and I do believe there's no exit either. There's no exit or entrance for Procyon. As you said, the gateway is closed. And I think that all of those isolation, not feeling wanted, not being able to go home, not knowing where home is, and being very scared and vulnerable. And the other side, like the isolationism, right? The sense of consolidating of power to the point where it gets dark, like a dark scorpionic energy. And what I have found is you can see, this is Procyon here, 26 degrees Cancer currently, right? It's at the 26 degree Cancer degree in the zodiacal sign of Cancer. So in a direct trine to that, for instance, is going to be these late Scorpio energies, which is also very Pleiadian. This is where it goes. This is where, when you realize when you can keep people isolated and keep them locked into something and keep them from having growth or experiencing anything outside, that's where you're able to exploit power of a group. That's where you're able to manipulate people into generating power for an end that they don't even realize, because they've been so caught in this system. And there are a lot of people who on the main global stage as political figures and leaders that I know have this late Scorpio in their charts that's very prominent. And you can feel that dark side of the Procyon energy in their actions, right? The way that they manipulate the collective sacred power that Scorpio truly represents. And so you can see all sides of the story are possible to experience in this current now moment, right? And you can see it in the chart. But what's interesting, of course, is that Capricorn with Pluto, the United States Pluto return is opposite Procyon. And in fact, in the US chart, the part of fortune is also conjunct Procyon. So there's something about what's happening here that is baked into the cake in terms of the story of where does your love and connection really stem from? Sometimes we can't go home. Sometimes our home burns down. Sometimes somebody closes the door. And maybe there is a lot of regret about that too, right? At a soul level, like imagine the Berlin Wall goes up. That was one of the things I really felt with this Procyon story is the Berlin Wall goes up and separates families or larger connections. And who's running that? Who's making that decision? All of these questions are part of the Cancerian theme. But as you see here, as of now, here comes Black Moon Lilith right across Procyon, again, opposite Pluto. So these themes of protection and closing the gate and consolidating power in order to protect are so deeply felt right now by the collective in a way that if you feel frustrated or disempowered by not having this experience of consolidated power, you will go to the opposite end with, just like Lilith is everywhere, that you will overcompensate by getting more so into that space. And that's kind of the dark side of Lilith too. So I can see all these stories playing out, and so much of this has to be released from us, right? We can't be reborn into this like Sun and Leo energy with this Lionsgate. Again, it all comes back to releasing our burdens. And that is not only physical, but the energetic memory of these things, the soul memory, I feel like does have a place in Taurus in the 6th house, because it's the actual DNA memory and it's the actual resonance that is part of now our soul's entire experience. It's baked in to what's happening right now, which is why I think it feels so different. It's like part of our collective story as a country. And I wonder too, how much of that is like, we have to kind of go through this in order to establish what really connects us. What is really family to us? Does it matter? Like, if we can't go back to what it's been, can we establish a sense of belonging and connection moving forward? I think this is the real question. And I think that the real measure of success for this country in its evolution, for instance, is being able to, well, I can't go back here. And so it's time to shed the skin, molt the shell, and find a new one that allows for this growth or this grown person to inhabit, if that makes sense. I think that's so much part of like the symbolic experience of the Procyon or Procyon story. And I think people are having it and they don't even know that they're having contact, visitation, any kind of, experience that is related to this soul journey in particular. So, man, there is some wildness happening. So this is today's chart, by the way. I'm just showing you right now because tomorrow is this triple conjunction down here in Taurus. KIAYANA, did you have any like questions, or did you want to Alicia said, I'm like bawling. You guys are amazing. And we're like, oh, Alicia, we miss you. Alicia, for those of you who don't know, both attuned KIAYANA and I to our Reiki master level. This is how we actually know each other. Is Alicia is kind of like our, is that bridge. And she is, she has a lot of Cancer energy actually. So she knows all about this. And I'm just so grateful for her and for the community that she's been creating and has been for a long time. She's really been holding it down for a while now. So yes, love to Alicia in the chat, guys. It's Awesome. Shall I move on? What do you think?
Oh,
Kiana? You want to look at some
yes,
more?
just go ahead, like continue, right? Continue.
I was just curious if you had anything, or if there anything in particular that
not yet to speak on. I'm taking
great.
I'm noting things
Mhm.
slowly,
Okay.
but I am good right now.
So what I'd like to do, guys, and for those of you who are familiar with my, my work, I'm just going to go through the major themes leading up to the Lion's Gate. So first, let me just kind of explain what this actually means for people who are like, well, what the hell is this? What does this have to do with astrology, astronomy, Sirius rising? Like, what is that? So in ancient Egypt in particular, and I'm sure any civilization in the ancient Mesopotamia, when Sirius rose in the dawn sky before the sun, that was the signal of the season of inundation. This is when the Nile would flood and it would replenish the lands. And Egypt was like the breadbasket of the ancient world, right? Food was aplenty. And part of it was the inundation of the seasonal rains and the water. So the flooding is the inundation. Now, in terms of their cosmology, is Isis as Sirius, Osiris, and their union, right? The sacred union of the masculine feminine polarities that bring forward the child Horus through the sun, right? There is plenty of information out there that you can familiarize yourself with all of the accessories and all of the specifics around these symbolic stories, their narrative. But that's the basic idea. So this happens on the 5th. The 5th at, ironically enough, at 5:55 a.m. Eastern Standard Time will be the first Sirius rising in the dawn sky. So the sun will rise like 7 minutes after that. So that is the astronomical Sirius rising is on the 5th. And when we look at the chart, actually, let's move forward and look at it. So this chart real quick is just tomorrow, right? It's these three, you can see here, these three, Mars, Uranus, and the North Node, the true node. Not everybody reads the true node or the oscillating node. Some people read for the average node. I use the oscillating nodes and the oscillating Lilith. Don't worry about it if you don't know what it means, because it's just to show that there is more precision day to day to the degrees. And I use a lot of Sabian symbols in my work. So the degrees have their own pattern of resonance, each degree. It's like this mandala. It's beautiful. So these three come together in exact conjunction pretty much tomorrow. So we talked about that already. And the sun and Jupiter as of today are in this air or this fire trine, right? And Jupiter has just stationed retrograde at this point too. So there is this sense of, it's like blowing glass, right? So you have the furnace that light that's hot enough to melt the glass, which is just silicon dioxide, which is it's the same substance as quartz crystal. It's just put together differently, but the heat will melt the glass, and the glass blower, the artist, uses their breath to then shape the glass in its liquid stage, and then it cools, and then it becomes this beautiful piece. And so much like the glass blower, we have to be involved with our spirit in order to shape our reborn consciousness in the Leo archetype. So this trine with Jupiter, right? These two very dense gas giants, one being a planet, one being our sun. Some people believe that Jupiter is a sun in the 5th density, right? So that's an interesting concept in and of itself, that we do have a binary system. Most star systems are binary or more. And it's just in a different density, though, which I think is just fascinating to think about. But this trine here, it's because now that Jupiter is retrograde in Aries, I feel like that what had been kind of this very expanded, almost like crystal ball of who we are and the full pattern of that meaning, and we're focusing on it. Now that Jupiter is retrograde, it's going to be like a balloon deflating. And even though what pattern was on that balloon when it was fully realized, even though in its deflation is going to get all distorted and you're not going to be able to recognize it, it's still exactly the same thing. And there's something about the spirit that this degree of the sun and this trine, this fire trine, it's like, remember that it's the spirit coming through your words, your expression, your, the mercurial energy that moves through you. And this is, Mercury is very important right now to be tracking, because not only is it sitting on the galactic degree right now for Atlantis at 25, 26, 27 Leo, it's also going to be conjunct Draco at a very important moment, which is going to be later. And it's going to be retrograde in Libra and will meet the sun at the equinox at 0 degrees in its retrograde. And if you remember in May, we had the exact same thing happen, except at 0 degrees Gemini, which is the star Alcyon. This was like the last star of the Pleiades star cluster. So it's going to be very similar, this Mercury Cazimi, where they line up but they're going in different directions, but it's going to be on the equinox. And so there's something about this mercurial spirit and what Mercury represents as the as that mutable energy of our own consciousness that is able to move along the speed of light, that is so essential, that we are identifying with right now as we accept that we're about to have this more internalized experience of, understanding and the big picture, because that's what Jupiter really represents. But in that retrograde, it's going to be like a balloon deflating. And I think this trine right now is so important to just tap into, where that spiritual transformation is able to come in is based on, the space, again, the space that we create for it, the space that we allow for it. And if it's taken up by all kinds of old stories, if we're inflamed, if we are swollen with energy that needs to be flushed out first, all of these things, we're not going to be able to have that space. But this is more like it's the spirit that can blow up that balloon in some ways, right? That when we're really struggling. And I don't think it's going to be easy with Jupiter in retrograde. I really don't. And Chiron is also in a retrograde, and Chiron and the sun will be in a trine on the Lion's Gate. So, and I'll get to that. But the fifth is the chart I wanted to bring up, which is the Sirius rising chart. And the thing that's the most prominent, I think, about this is that it's also a first quarter square. So here's all that Scorpio energy again. And I know, Kiana, you and I are both got our moon in Scorpio. So can't wait until we feel everything in the collective. It's just kind of the curse of the moon in Scorpio. So not only is the sun going to square the moon in that first quarter moon, which is always a moment of crisis individually and in our own process of growing, it's also going to be part of this. It seems like it's going to be it's like a T-square with all of this stuff in Taurus and Scorpio, especially the nodal axis, right? Which is where our soul has been. And I feel like that the reason that, the Scorpio people in general, and I feel like I can speak to this because I have this moon in Scorpio. So it's going to be so counterintuitive for people in terms of where the soul is going for the Scorpio people, because the Scorpio person is so powerful when they are tapped into the collective or communal power that's generated in their relationships, that to recognize that we are moving towards a more natural relationship and a harmonious relationship with what is, as opposed to the urge and drive to create more, which is what Scorpio represents in a lot of ways. It's going to be very counterintuitive. And this, I think, Kiana, really goes back to the things you've said about how to be still and to allow the space, right? To realize that we are in a cycle right now that has much more to do with allowing source and the natural world to create from themselves, and us to be in alignment with that, as opposed to what we've already mastered at some level, clearly. And I'm just going to be blunt here. Our entire economic system has been based on this money magic, right? This scorpionic energy of generating more, but it's not been in a way that's been on the up and up, right? So these themes are all going to come up, but this square at the Sirius rising is going to be kind of that moment where we're going to have to readjust ourselves for, what is it? What am I doing? Right. Because you feel this kind of, we're all going to feel this internalized kind of drive to establish deeper connections, or more to spread out those lines of communication in order to truly to gather more. And that's somewhere where we've been, right? And these squares, these quarter squares with the moon, they really just give us something to adjust. We have to adjust ourselves. It's that first kind of like, meeting the wall as we had this new moon in Leo, right? That was just like, I'm coming out, right? And I want the world to know. And this is going to be like, well, what about, we can't just do it ourselves, right? We have to establish deeper connections with each other somehow, but I think it's just going to be really confusing. And if you're trying to figure it out with your mind, good luck. Right. I think that if you really want to set some intention for this Sirius rising for yourself, like if you want to kind of commune with the astrology as a practice, again, it would be more about knowing, being very discerning about where those connections are taking you. Right. And to know that we are here to be a soul coming forward in manifestation. And I get the sense here that something may try to pull us back into some old stories, right? Mm-hmm. And that's going to be kind of like, oh, what do I do? And it more dramatic for some than others, right? But I think this will be an important kind of tension, right? So that we can, be clear with ourselves where we are going. So that's the Sirius rising. And then the 8th is the actual gateway, when the sun crosses the midpoint of Leo, the zodiac sign of Leo in the sky. So this is truly the eye of the needle moment, right? Where we go through the gateway and we've shed the burden, and because we've allowed the inundation of the floodwaters. Now we can, not only is it a combust Kundalini rising type of energy, now it has somewhere to be released into, which is out into the world, right? Just like the sun combusts and releases its energy for life. So the sun will be in a trine to Chiron. And I get the sense here that, and what I've been reading for people is that this is going to be a very healing type of moment. And it's going to be, it's either going to burn things away, like we talked about, very dramatically for people, but it's also going to be such a beautiful moment of, this is what we're capable of together. Like truly, but we all have to be our own sovereign voice in that moment, right? It's not going to be where we just kind of blend into the background. That's not happening. Saturn in Aquarius has made that impossible, right? Everybody's voice matters now. And the 8-8 gateway with Chiron like this in its retrograde, I think it'll be very painful for many people, but it'll also be one of those moments of just joy in like, oh, I'm already getting emotional. I don't have to just do it myself. Like, I don't have to be afraid anymore of what's out there. And I also don't have to feel trapped anymore. So the 8-8 is like, I feel like it's going to be a huge healing. So that's what I got so far. I mean, and we can look at the charts leading up to the equinox, because just getting to this point is a huge endeavor. But what comes after this is also going to be very important, because we're going to go into Virgo season. And as you can see here, Mercury 6 to 7 Virgo, this is Alpha Draconis. So it's going to be very important that the mind, in its analysis and its striving for perfection, is very clear of whose perfection we are organizing within ourselves. Is it our own? Is it our ego consciousness? Is it a distorted sense of isolationism and like, pulling in and holding and hoarding your power? Or is it something that we are creating together with that vulnerability that we can trust? And Mercury at Draco, it's going to be one of those defining moments for the Draco starseeds of, there is a reckoning but in a good way. Like the Draco finally have this opportunity, I think, for them to also find, you know, their own karmic resolution to their experience, right? Like how they have kind of just distorted and inverted what otherwise is truly really the Christ and Mary Magdalene energy. That's what Virgo really represents to me. And you can either master that dragon energy through a lineage of the priestesses, or which has been, I think, protected by the mystery schools for a very long time and is now having to come back out because we need it. We need the information now. But I think this is really, really important. So I'm going to stop the share. I'm going to bring it over to you, KIAYANA. And
okay.
Yeah. What do you have? What do you got for us? Do you have anything that you would like, you know, any responses to the astrology or anything that came through? I mean, while
I
we're going over
think
that.
and I don't even know why I'm surprised, because I don't know. Like, everything you spoke to is in alignment with the messages that I have been getting, the SIRIUS channeling that you had already shared previously, even what we talked about earlier. I've also been getting these messages about how it is time for us to, like, this coming together, the collaboration aspect, but to also stand within the power of our own sovereignty and what we each uniquely bring to the table and how that is so needed. So just speaking on that, like, it was resonating with me deeply. And like, aside from that, like, honestly, where I'm at right now is I'm feeling a whole lot. So I didn't know, like, if you wanted to speak on anything else more specifically, or if, you know, now would be a good time for me to lead in and to just let things flow.
I'd say go for it. There was one thing that you said that before you do that I want to clarify, which is Chiron. And I'm going to go, you know, the next month of Catalyst Classroom is all Chiron and is in conjunction with a star called Tau Ceti. It's in the Cetus, or the sea monster constellation. It's also a starseed marking. A lot of starseeds that I work with have this, and Chiron sitting on it has been a big eye opener for them in a lot of ways. But there's something about where it's been that has been necessary. Like, without the inner withdrawal to learn how to generate our own charge within ourselves, without knowing how to do that from the very beginning, we don't really get to establish that sovereign selfhood, right? And so there's been a place for that with Chiron and its prograde up until recently. And so the retrograde, as painful as it is, it's very painful for some people just to watch the bypassing mechanisms that have been in place for a really long time, or the self-protective mechanisms start to not work anymore, has been, it's hard to watch people you care about just like, finally the scales are dropping and you're like, and they're just like, and I'm, you know, what are you going to do? Yeah. Right? Like, no amount of telling them 2 years ago that this was all going to be how it was going to look and that was our journey, right? That was the journey of Gemini and the polarization. So now that we're out of that with the nodes, it's like Chiron in its retrograde it's going to show us at this gateway that there was a place for that, because without that, there's always the potential to let go of our own sovereignty to that dark side of Aquarius, which is the Borg, basically, or totalitarian thinking, right? Ideological totalitarianism. So, and we know what that is starting to look like now. So I just wanted to point that out, that, and I feel like that you brought that in already, that there's almost a necessity to that, yes, in order to know what the contrast feels like. So the gateway with the trine to the sun passing the midpoint as we walk through the eye of the needle to be in that very strong, foundational, supportive angle to Chiron at that moment just seems like it was all for something. And to, you know, we can let go of the pain of our own isolation now, or whatever it is that we feel.
Yes.
It's different for people. So anyway, I wanted to bring that up because that felt like a very important kind of caveat to what was going to come through with you.
Yes.
As we move forward. So there you go.
Okay, ma'am. All right. So guys, those of you that are here with us at this time, those of us who may be watching on the playback, it's fine as well. I'm going to lead us through a short meditation, a channeling at this time. So I welcome you to get comfortable in your space. You can be sitting up, you can be laying back, lounging, doesn't matter. Just try to allow yourself to be as comfortable and as present in this moment as you can. I invite you to close your eyes in this moment. And we're going to take a deep breath in, hold for a moment, and then release, allowing ourselves to just relax and be present in this moment. I'm going to repeat a chant, and when you feel comfortable, I welcome you to repeat it with me. It does not matter in what tone you say it. Allow yourself to just intuitively allow it to flow from you, and pay special attention to where you feel it in your body. We're going to repeat together, Odorone, Odorone, Odorone. Odorone. I ask at this time that you visualize a golden white halo above your crown, above the top of your head. Welcome in source energy to flow through your crown like a river throughout your entire being. Welcoming source energy to expand and fill your energy channels, flushing, cleansing out all debris, all lower negative vibrational energies, and just continuing like a river throughout from head to toe. Allowing it to flow out of the soles of your feet to be swept away and transmuted by the light. In this space, you are safe. In this space, you are held and you are covered. Know that you are divinely guided, that you are anchored into Mother Gaia, that you are surrounded by Source Spirit Creator. We are going to go through a healing activation. I want you to take note on where you felt yourself activated within the body when saying the earlier chant. And I welcome you to place your hands on that area. And just allow yourself to be and sit and receive direct from Source this healing, this cleansing, to assist you at this point in your ascension journey. Arayingo longo shikindi, alaring degango koshindi, amalaingo lokondo e shikindi, amae kondo. Alaili angaengo koeti anae shikindi ya, alango botoe. Aindia handa hombo hondo lianga engia ongolia hande shi ombolo ehihtiana elongo shikindi. We welcome you into this space and bestow upon you a gift of your own birthright. We welcome you to return home, a space that has always and will forever be within the self, within you, your core. Recognize that all you need is already within you. It is time to stop looking outside of you and focus within you, because it is only here that you will find the answers to what it is that you seek. Ondolonga anda ikondo iti shikindi. Alambakandi shokundo olombakandi akane umba ane shiki. Alaingo mbokondo iliahane kombo. Palaki tianda e kondo iti shikindi. Hane ondo la ishikinda amaesho. My brothers and sisters, guardians of the light, anchors of Source, we welcome you and we acknowledge you and we see you. We recognize the struggle, we recognize the pain, we recognize the circumstance. But we want you to know that you are so much more than your perception, than your perceived reality. And that within you lies the tools necessary to change, to alchemize, to transform your reality. Allow this time to anchor you. Allow this time to transform you. Allow this time to be present in this moment. Not in the past, not in the future, but now. Because now, in this moment, is the only moment that matters. Trust and know that you have everything you need. Trust and know that you are worthy of your heart's desire, that it is your birthright. And we thank you, Spirit. I call upon us all to be surrounded, the golden white light of source energy, to be grounded into Mother Gaia, who keeps us and nourishes us always, and to give thanks to our celestial counterparts, our guides, our guardians. Allow yourself to breathe in and out, and to return to your present moment, this moment. Welcome in the key to self, and know and acknowledge that the key that you seek has always and always will be within you. Thank you. And when you are ready, feel free to join us all again.
Wow. Thank you so much, KIAYANA. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Wow. I think we all need a minute here. We all need a minute. Let's see how. Wow. Okay. So
I know, like I always
I'm like
feel what I call.
So I'm sure everybody has their experience, right, of what, but I'd like to share mine.
Yes.
Just so you know, there's probably going to be some overlaps, right? So I turned off the microphone, but I left the camera on, right? So I was doing the chanting with you, and it immediately went right into my womb, right? So second chakra, like immediately. The first flash that I had was, oh my God. The first flash that I had, it was definitely being part of some sort of medicine circle. And actually, as soon as you said you were covered, right, I was just back in the sweat lodge, and it was really so powerful. Of that, not in that exact experience either. It was something that was not something I've experienced before. Like, I was connecting to a different experience, but it was still the same, being with the group in this sweat lodge, right? Where if you've ever done anything like that, you know that that is one of the, especially like the Lakota, like Inipi, it just purges it all away in that moment. And the first time that and the only time I've really ever done a Lakota Inipi sweat lodge was in, oh God, the early 2000s. And it was so synchronistic and random how I found it. And it was the real deal, right? It was definitely not something that was advertised or anything. I was led there, and it was really powerful. And it was the first time that I ever really I thought I was going to die. First of all, that was how powerful it was. I really had no idea what I was getting myself into. And I had like completely humbled myself down to the planet and was addressing her as my mother, as an entity, as some, something that, and someone, right, a presence that I was having a communion with. And I was like, oh my God, if I just, please let me get through this sweat lodge. And I did, and it was profound. But I had that experience. And then actually the thing that came through, and if Alicia's still here, she'll remember this. KIAYANA, when she did my second level attunement, I had been attuned for like 15 years to Reiki 1 and been practicing with my massage clients for a long time. And so when I finally took the step, it was not that, it was like 2019, 2018. And when she did the the Reiki 2 attunement, it was the same place. It was the same thing that happened. And we were both just like sobbing, because what came through in that moment, which I think is the real crystal of this, for me at least, was that moment where the planet, when as a mother and as the feminine principle, relayed to me that that the healing comes because she is unconditional in her love for everything here. And it just cleansed every part of me that was related to that in that first attunement. It was just like, it was so profound. Like I said, Alicia and I were just like bawling and bawling and bawling, because it was just like, wow, that one moment. And that's what I just felt. It was like
yes,
it wasn't a recreation, nor was it a revisiting of that experience. It was a reverberation from a much bigger container that I have now, if that makes sense. Like the inundation was just as strong and powerful, and the message was still there, but my container has been stretched as a result of the last couple of years, especially, that when that energy came through, it wasn't like it didn't move me, because it surely did, but it was a remembrance of like, oh yes, it's through unconditional love, compassion, much like the earth has, like a mother has for their child, just like the earth has for all of the life that is part of her. And that womb space is what that represents. And so that was what I experienced.
yes.
And I'm so grateful to have,
I love it.
oh, I'm so grateful to have had that experience again. It was just it's such an important thing to remember, because we get so caught in our judgments and in our finger wagging, right? And it's you know what I mean? Like, and it's so angry at those who have betrayed themselves. And then that leads to a betrayal in so many other ways. But much like the divine feminine mother, right? It's unconditional. And when we can tap into that, there's nothing that can't be cleansed and transformed. Oh, that was so beautiful. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh.
So welcome.
Yeah, I want to
so
check in with the chat too. I want to see what people, because it's like popping off now. And I do have it set for people it'll replay. The chat will replay live now on the replay on YouTube. If it's on the other platforms, of course, like I post to BitChute and Odyssey and Rumble. So for the sake of that, I really want to read some of the chat, because you won't get it there. And let's see. That's some astrology stuff, right? Alicia is asking if we talked about the conjunction, about Venus and Uranus and Scorpio. Yeah, I did talk about it for sure. And we can go into it more if you want. And where are these connections taken with me? Oh, there's Seth with his Schrodinger's cat, always showing up, but not showing up in the chat. Always, right? He just has a little Schrodinger's cat thing. This feels like one of those times I'm like, okay, I just need to survive these next few weeks. I would say that that's there's something to that, right? And it's not even about survival so much as just being still and holding the space for it, but it's big, right? Some are saying 8-8 is supposed to be the bad guy's last hooray. Well, with Draco, Mercury conjunct Draco, I could see how that was that moment of like, where are you going to go? Right? What is this energy going to be used for? Adam says, I'm pulling in my energy and hoarding, or am I creating with others from a place of vulnerability that I can trust? That's the question, my friend. Definitely. And Light on Change says it's an exhausting tug of war right now. Adam, I feel the same. And Adam says, I feel as if I've been pulling my energy back to me to be able to resist going down the old paths. Oh, this is a great point, but I must actually release this energy down new aligned paths, right? Yes. And Light on Change says feeling hope. And again, from a vulnerable place, Adam says from a vulnerable place with knowing I'm safe. Yes, people are saying great observations to Adam. I think that's he's right on. And Alicia says, do you both have suggestions as to how to treat this 8-8 gate? Should we be intending, releasing? What kind of energy do we want to be feeling? Here it's not mental. So would you recommend extra time in meditation? I don't even feel called to journal or anything anymore. So I don't know what's happening. Oh, that's a great question. I feel like we can address this in just a moment here. I want to go through some more of the chat and see what else comes up so that we can kind of pull it all together. I had internal knowing as a child. I was here for something, but I never could have guessed it would be quite like this. I love that. I kind of got close. I got kind of close in a book I started in high school, but not the same. Oh yeah. Artistic expression. That is a Leo, 5th house, sun-based energy all day long, artistic expression. Everybody's kind of talking to each other, cleansing my pineal gland, I believe. Many thanks. Yes, I think that your channeling definitely did that and cleansed it maybe via other places in the body, but I think it really did. And people were saying it was beautiful, teary eyes as well. Such a journey. So blessed to be here with you all. Energy transcends physical position. I feel you all, beautiful people. Oh, everybody is so excited or crying. I'm motivated to work on my TP pole pyramid for meditation. Okay, first of all, my spouse and I were just talking about building a TP just this morning. So I love that synchronicity. Tasha says it was powerful. I feel like this time meditation for me is not just about me, it's about connecting to everyone too. Ooh, those are all really good points. Do you have anything in those comments really stand out for you, KIAYANA? I loved how like people are like in the moment of recognizing that they're, that they've been hoarding maybe, or in a place of wanting to protect themselves. And this is so much of the new moon. I can't even stand it, how much it's like, the new moon was so much about facing this and intentionally letting go of the past, recognizing the value of what has been, but not letting it hold you back from the future, but also, not completely discounting where you've come from either, because that root system is still important. Even if you know that something has to change about it, you want to see where you've come from so you know what not to do again, right? How we don't make these mistakes of our Atlantean, 2.0 or whatever again, because we really are here again. And we get to make that choice, right? Do we go with using the energy that is meant to help us as a means to just gather more power because of all of the, the unresolved karma? Or do we move forward into that? The timeline's already set, right? That's the thing. Right. For me, it's already set. Like anybody that is, and I know other people have said, it's fine. Whatever you believe is between you, yourself, and God. But I'm telling you from my perspective, is that The timeline has already been set. Like we're already on it. We're living it now. So to Alicia's question about what can we do? I don't think there's any much that we need to do other than support ourselves by not taking anything through that eye of the needle that we don't want to be influencing our further creations, right? Because that's where it comes from. Our feelings, our deep sensitivity is what is the water of our life. And so baggage will carry that, right? Baggage will carry it. We want to let that go and make sure that the feelings that we're taking with us are what we want to bring into this. So maybe there will be another last hurrah for the deep state. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised. They're watching this right now. I have no doubt. And they certainly use astrology. Billionaires use astrology, and those people are, for the most part, somehow wrapped up in that whole, I'm going to control for this, right? And there is no controlling for it. It's just living. I would say that the Lyran perspective and the Sirian perspective have a really good opposition or polarization in a good way, a balancing point in terms of the way to address this, right? Which is to just be yourself and let who you are not anymore just fall away. And so whatever medium you want to express that in, I think it doesn't really matter, right? Like I find myself just going out into my garden and just puttering, right? Or whatever, right? Feeding plants, or, working with whatever it is that makes that connection for you, I think is the right thing to do. What do you have to, is there anything in particular that really stands out with some of those comments?
Like, I feel it in regards to the advice of what to do with the 8/8 portal. One of the strongest messages that came through the Sirius energy was to stop trying.
Yes. Yeah,
so
I would agree with that. Absolutely.
If doing a thing doesn't feel right in that moment, don't do it. It's an opportunity to allow ourselves to be still and be quiet, because they also spoke of needing to be able to hear when the time is right to act. And it's difficult to do that if we're all in our heads trying to figure things out. So I feel that's why there is this constant message coming through of trying to be as present as possible and trying to flow with what feels right to the soul from moment to moment, and, just letting the rest flow. But one of the comments from Adam, the one that I feel as if I've been pulling my energy back to me. Oh no, not that one. Sorry, wrong one. I thought I found it. I think it went down again. Hold on. But there was the comment where he spoke about, like, is there this need to, yes, am I pulling in my energy and hoarding, or am I creating with others from a place of vulnerability that I can trust? And I can speak to this because I've been going through something very similar on my path. And I feel like it is this balance of finding a happy place. And like you mentioned to Denise, coming from a place of discernment of what is in alignment with you and what is not in alignment with you, because our energy is sacred. And I have been in a place recently where there are people in my life who I love and adore, but I have not been in a space to give them my energy, because that energy does need to stay with me right now, because I am in a space of introspection. But at the same time, divine is bringing people through my path in alignment with me, who I'm also in a process of learning to be vulnerable with. So it's like this healthy balance, I feel. And it comes from a place of really being discernment of what's for your highest good in this moment, and what is not, because it is kind of like a contradiction, because I am in this space of introspection, of really listening and trying to be present. And then I'm also in this space of where I am in divine alignment with these other souls who I am learning to allow myself to be more vulnerable with, and collaborate with, and things of that nature. So I do believe it is about this balance, and perhaps that's like part of the lesson for where we're at right now, is really learning to listen to what we really need, what our soul needs in the moment.
Yeah, I would agree. I agree with that. And it can seem a little awkward when it's maybe a newer skill, or you just come online to realizing you even have a choice in any of that, right? Like, imagine remember how long it took really to figure out, like, oh, I end here and they begin, right? Like, there is distinctly me and this other person. And, that's the curse of the empath, right? I mean, it's been a long journey, isn't it? To figure that out. And I think that what the imagery that seems to help me the most in these situations, again, goes back to the Cancerian womb of there needs to be permeability in order for there to be transmission of resources, energy, love, sharing. But there needs to be space to grow, because ultimately there's that solar energy that is the bringer of life. So the earth can be here full of life-giving water all day long, but without the sun and, light, essentially, without light, being part of the equation, like, that's where, the experience grows from. But if we don't give ourselves any permeability or flexibility, right, the womb, eventually you are born, right? You don't stay in there forever. And that's a traumatic experience, the way that we're born, right? It's just like, and it's like being squeezed through the eye of a needle to come out of a birth canal. And so it's, you what do? You trust the body, right? You are not mental. There's no mental anything with that situation. It is happening and you are part of it. And that's the Lyran perspective that is so, in some ways, so opposite, like physically opposite, right? Vega and Sirius are diametrically opposed from our viewpoint on this planet, right? Vega's in 15 Capricorn, Sirius is at 15 Cancer. They are, and as well as I do, how much they are connected to each other, right? The Lyran perspective is much older. It's got a lot more time under its belt and a lot more expansion into form. But that comes from a place of deep commitment, core knowing, those things, all those Cancer things. And the Sirians seem to be really understand that. And there's something, the Lyrans, what they do is they ride the wave of the fractal. They're not forcing it. And that's something that came out when you talked about that. Like, you can't force it and you can't conceptualize it exclusively with your mind. So if there's resistance to your own soul feeling in that moment, then you're not going to be able to ride the wave of the fractal of nature or God or spirit, right? In that moment. Only if you are riding it with full awareness and a sense of fearlessness that you really are in alignment. So there's no, it's kind of a misnomer in some ways to consider that we manifest our reality as if like we're thinking it up, right? It's more of like, by the time you get to, it's the thought that gives a pattern to what you're experiencing. The energy is like, the emotions are what fuel it. And then you come through into this creative expression that the sun really represents. And so, but I think it's an awkward experience, to be honest. I think you're right. I think it's moment to moment, right? Every moment you're going to feel something and you're going to be like, is this me? Is that them? What do I do? Da, 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 da. And it can be very overwhelming. And this is where people this is where in the West, when you're practicing like Tantra or Kundalini without a guide or a teacher or a format or a lineage, people, and I've seen it firsthand multiple times, like for real, people having to be either institutionalized or they crack. Because the Kundalini opens and they have no means to contain it, because they've either been their consciousness has been like a brick wall for so long that they have to like burst out, but it's so destructive. I don't think any of the people here necessarily are at that point, but that's the real danger. And so there's something about the permeability, which I haven't really figured out. Like a catch-all, right? It's not like, here, this is how you do it. It's different for all of us. Yeah. But there's something about the permeability of that womb, right? Or whatever that container is, that it's like growing up and leaving the nest, right? You stay living at your mom's house for the rest of your life. You're never going to grow into your own voice, right? Because you stay kind of caught up in that old container. So, but boundaries are essential, right? They're essential for healthy growth during that process. And so to Adam's question, I guess it's really moment to moment, like you said, like feeling it out, seeing how it feels. We all have a lot of practicing, I think, still to do. And sometimes it feels like there's not enough time left, right? Do you get that sense? Do you get kind of like, not for me personally, but it's more about the fallout in some ways that really scares me. That's where my anxiety kicks in, because I've been in situations where I've been in these situations where, people around me are going, or the world in whatever way is like unpredictably, like, changing. And it can be really destabilizing. And I've never none of us have experienced this in this lifetime to this extent. And I think that it may bring up stuff that we don't understand within ourselves. And that's why a healthy practice of astral hygiene is essential. I think that's probably my biggest, just like you said, discernment. Know what your boundaries are, know what your intuitive language actually feels like to you, so that when you are tempted by other things that have a shiny veneer and they're like, I'm here to help you, you're like, does this make me feel, do I feel like I can trust and be vulnerable? Or does this amp up my fear response when people give me information or present themselves? I think that's something to consider as well. And know that you bought the ticket for the ride. You're here. So I love thrill rides, roller coasters, that big slingshot at the boardwalk. Like, I love that shit. And so for me, I thrive in this moment of like, this is it. There's no going back, right? What I don't like and what makes me sick every time, you know what I mean? The gravitron, right? That's going to have you pinned against the wall. Like that shit. No, thanks. And I hope that's not what we're doing, because I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that either. I want to go down the sine wave, right? Like, take me to the crest and bring me down there. That's going to be so awesome. But that's not going to be everybody's experience. So you're not going to be able to take that away from other people. All you can do is like maybe hold their hand or something and be like, it's going to be okay. So I feel the isolation and the introversion too. Like in the last 2 years, I think have really amplified that and really brought that to a sense to our awareness that it's been almost too much to look at, where that Chiron has been this whole time, right? Just inner withdrawal, right? And it's not going to work as well. We have to start finding the places we overlap with each other so that we can create a really strong resonance that withstands the destruction of the institutions that Pluto is just, it's just part of what's going on. And with that destruction comes incredible amount of power being released. And that's, again, the discernment is going to be really important about how we move forward. And it's go ahead. Sorry.
It's practice, like for me, and I'm still learning, what works for me and what doesn't, and learning to trust, because that's a big thing, is learning to trust our discernment, learning to trust those gut feelings, or what we feel in our body or what we feel in our spirit is really important. And I have learned, the more that I practice it, the more that I learn to trust those feelings. Like it's coming to a place now where an individual may say something and I'll be like, they're being dishonest. And that's like, And that's my like initial reaction. And I'm like, but I don't understand why I thought that, because, you know, they were smiling at me, but I was just like, no, there's some dishonesty happening, you know? So I feel like trusting oneself is a huge part of, you know, this journey, and especially where we are in this unearthing and this transforming, learning to trust.
Yeah, I think that was an incredible, like, practical example of how it's really the only way forward, is that we are going to have to be transparent, obviously, with ourselves, but there's no hiding anymore either. And that's the other side, is that people can continue to try to lie to themselves, lie to other people. And they may have good reason in their own mind why they're being dishonest, because they don't want to hurt your feelings. They don't trust what they have to say. They don't want to rock the boat. There's a lot of that. We're getting, you know, part of moving to fourth to fifth density is there are no secrets anymore.
Yes.
Because you are picking up on people's vibration, and that tells you more than anybody's words are going to do. And that's when really, like, the whole information war is irrelevant once we kind of pass that threshold, because it doesn't matter how much they keep pumping into our mental sphere. It's just like, you can almost at this point, almost immediately, just be like, that's disingenuous, that's disinformation. You can feel it. And you don't even, they could be saying all the things you agree with in your own self, but when you hear and feel them saying it, you know that they are either lying, they don't believe it, or they're saying it in order to get something from you. And that's all they have left, to be perfectly honest. Like, the Orion regressive story is going to it's going to sputter out, because all they have is the polarization. It's a feedback loop that they are stuck in themselves. And that's the Orion story, right? That's like a whole thing that they're figuring out, like, through many star seeds. Like, oh, I see. I just trapped myself in a false matrix of this or that, thinking that was real. And it's caused a lot of damage, like a lot. And there are lots of Orion star seeds that are here to help and to learn and evolve themselves through that story. But discernment is part of that too, right? It's not enough just to be like this or that. You have to actually find a way for them to come together and transmute within yourself. And that's a powerful magic. It's like it's the difference between, like, it's, you know, the left hand and the right hand path. Which way are you going to go? I feel like Virgo is where you really kind of decide at that point where your energy is getting directed. So, man, holy crap, it's almost 3:00. I knew that it was going to be like,
oh gosh, yeah, we've been going for 2 hours. Wait, and I've missed so many comments. Hold on.
Yeah, no, go through them. I think you should go through them, because they're amazing. And I know that lots of people will end up on the replay as well. And really appreciate that. Wow. So many parallels with the Atlantean end times right now. Edgar Casey's Atlantean reading compilation spells it out. Whoa. Yes. Oh my gosh. And it's really difficult. I have found I have to read that book when I am at my peak mental capacity, because it is really the way the you know, because he's channeling Ra, and the way that it is spoken and then dictated is like, you really have to be like so present. And I end up getting distracted so easily in my own like imagination. So, but you're totally right. That book spells it out really clearly. I putter in the garden all the time. It's my favorite thing. Yes. Gosh, these comments are just amazing.
Yes.
Alex K, here you are. I was wondering if we'd see you. It cracked a couple years ago. I don't think Kundalini needs to be involved either. That's one of the ways that the cracking can come from. I feel like it can come from one direction or the other in some ways. So and it's okay to crack. Sometimes we need to crack. Yeah, we do. We need to crack a few eggs, right? I mean, and that's so base, but
like that's what the past couple of years have felt like.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Let's see.
Light on Change said that the light language that I use sound like someone, her name is something May. Beyond, she's on Beyond This. I've never heard of her. I'm gonna have to look it up for sure. So thank you for sharing that. Light on Change.
That's cool. I'm trying to find, I'm curious. Let me know. It says, I've read, you know, what's a really good Law of One is amazing. And certainly you can read it, but I actually can link you to a YouTube channel that has a person who he dictates, or he's narrating a ton of stuff. But one of the things he does is narrate the Law of One. And it's in, you know, it's in segments, like a couple chapters per video. So they're really easy to listen to in stages, right? Like 20 minutes here, 30 minutes there, like to listen to the Law of One material, because that really was essential to me as well, is hearing that material. And that's Ra as well, right? And so Edgar Cayce and the Law of One are very intertwined with each other. I think that's worth it. Okay, so Alicia said, before you guys finish, can you talk about your membership, D, and what it costs? And Kia, can you talk about your readings? I want one. And D, would it be worth getting a second Starseed reading? Well, I certainly have been offering a Starseed appreciation reading. Do you want to get into some of the offerings that we have as we kind of wrap up? And yes. If there's anything else you want to offer before we move forward? I know we didn't get into any of the astrology of Past the Gate, but actually that's a great segue into the fact that I'm offering a reading for that. So, but is there anything else that you want to bring forward before we kind of move into the more logistical, promotional stuff, you know, and talk about what we have to offer?
I think I'm ready. I'm just sitting here trying to cool down because my temperature rose like probably about 10 degrees.
Yeah, totally. Like I'm wearing this hoodie right now and I'm like sweating. So I'm gonna take it off. Here, like let's Kiana, why don't you share? I'm gonna bring up your flyer that you shared with me. Okay. And why don't you let us know what's going on with you, how people can book with you, what your offerings are, and let us know more about what this is all about. So
okay, so in honor of this auspicious time, I am going to be offering a new reading. It's called my SIRIUS Wisdom Reading and Activation. So basically what it includes is an hour session with me. I will, of course, start out with like divination. We'll look at where you are on your spiritual path. Any messages or messages specifically that may come through from your guides and things like that, or advice on where you are on your spiritual path. And we will also then lead into healing activation space where I connect with my celestial counterparts in order to channel in whatever healing or activation that you may need at that time. This is a new offering. So I haven't even put it on any of my platforms yet. Normally it would be like 111, but for the next 30 days, especially as we go through this Lionsgate portal and out throughout the next 30 days, I'm going to be offering it for 66. So that is, a promo that I'm doing for this offering. Alicia had mentioned the ancestral reading, and it's so crazy that she brought it up because I have not officially developed it yet. So any of you guys that are like familiar with human design, I am a manifesting generator. So like I'll get ideas.
I'm also a manifesting generator.
Okay. And like, I still wait to respond in some cases. Like the more that I practice that strategy, the better it is for me. So the fact that Alicia asked about it, I probably will be now building that reading up and actually making it an offering, because it was an idea, but I just wasn't sure like how I wanted to bring it forward. So Alicia, I will let you know about that once I have it fleshed out.
Well, you could also, find find some volunteers for a beta test. I
yes.
I do
Okay.
that when I want to bring forward a new offering. I offer it to somebody as a beta test for like a donation or something and somebody that is able to give feedback,
Yes.
And so I find that to work. So I'm sure Alicia or anybody else here would love to be your beta tester on something like that. I certainly would love to be your beta tester, but
okay.
So how do we find you too? That's the other thing.
Yes. So guys, I am in this process of transformation on a personal level and professionally. I do have a website right now under AURORACREATIVEHEALING.com. However, I just feel over the next month or two that website is going to be changing, so coming down for a while. So the easiest way to get in touch with me is either through Instagram or Facebook. You can find me on Instagram at Aurora Creative Healing, and you can find me on Facebook at Aurora Creative Healing 1111. And also, as noted on the promo up here, if you want to book a free consultation or book the Sirius Wisdom reading with me, you can just go to auroracreativehealing.square.site, because we're all in transition. But I love where spirit is leading me and where my higher self is leading me on this path. And I'm excited because I know that it's like it's a rebirth. It's a rebirth of my business and into something new and beautiful. So I'm just really happy to share it with all of you and to be able to be in this space. So,
and I made sure to notate down here. I circled it just so this is in terms of the reading or to get a consult to go to this. And if you're watching this on the replay, then you can all of our contact information will be in the description box. It just wasn't something that I was able to do very easily, linking from Zoom into the live stream on YouTube, but it will definitely, all these things will be in the description box on the replay as soon as we're done here.
And not to cut you off, but before I cut off, in my head, I was thinking that I would accept 3 for a beta test on the ancestral reading, and 3 people apparently popped up in the chat.
Oh yeah, so, perfect.
So, if you guys will just, because we're streaming on Catalyst Energy's page, if you guys will just shoot me a message either via Facebook or Insta, and I will get with you that way.
Yeah,
for the beta test.
Perfect.
Okay.
That's
Sweet.
Perfect.
Look at that.
That's great. I'm so excited about the direction things are heading for you too. Like I can just feel it, and in the readings that I've been doing, especially these readings. So the thing that I'm offering right now is just a personal astrological forecast for the Lionsgate. This is actually a really cool, this is called the Eye of the Needle. It's in a state or a national park or national forest. I think this one's in Montana. So I don't know. I just like looking for cool eye candy that represents what we're talking about. But we're looking for this reading. I'm offering a personal astrological forecast from the Lionsgate to the September equinox, which is 0 degrees Libra. And we have that Mercury conjunction, the Mercury Cazimi at 0 degrees Libra, and they're going retrograde. So this, and this is, this is the moment of balance, right? At the equinox of light and dark. And so I feel like that it's going to be in this moment that we will really get a sense of the identified like form, that perfect form of Libra, right? Where everything is perfectly balanced and we see the whole thing in its entirety and what that experience will, then you have to go through the experience of actually living that. But in those 0 degrees, especially in galactic astrology, they're like a crack between worlds, right? And so it's like experiencing the beginning and the end all at once at that 0 degrees. Wow, imagine that, 0 being this full circle. So these forecasts I'm offering, they are 60-minute recordings. They usually, I should offer a 90-minute one because right now they seem to be veering towards the 99 or 90 minutes, but I want to keep it at a really affordable level right now. So you can go to my website, catalystenergies.net. You can book right from the homepage if you're interested in this. And we just look at your chart, your progress chart, your natal chart, your starseed markings, and just put together kind of a general idea of what to expect and what areas of life. And in the way that I do these readings, a lot of times it is through the process of the reading itself that I begin to channel a lot more specific intuitive information for you. But it's in the pattern of the astrology that I'm able to start kind of extracting these threads. So if you're interested in that or any of my other services, it's all on my website, catalystenergies.net. And I haven't put anything in terms of a cutoff for this yet. Basically, if it's not on the homepage of my website, then that's the offering is usually over. And then the other thing is that Alicia asked about the Catalyst Classroom and my subscriber platform. So through Subscribestar, there are a number of there are 2 tier systems, the Starseed Fellowship and then the Catalyst Classroom. And basically, it's a small community that's building. So the Starseed Fellowship is just a bi-weekly Zoom meeting for those subscribers who want to participate, or you catch it on the replay. And this is like truly just like the talking circle, but for star seeds. And so we pass the talking stick, and there have been some just dynamic, incredible conversations. We've had an opportunity very recently to offer like a supreme amount of support to one of our group who's really going through a big life challenge right now. And even just having that space has so much impact. So that's $3 a month, and you get access to those Zoom calls twice a month, plus all the free content that I do. And the Catalyst Classroom is a much more just kind of what it sounds like. It's a much more in-depth type of environment where we pick a theme for the month, and I present weekly content to the subscriber base on various aspects. So next month, we're going to be talking about Chiron. So we'll talk about the astronomy, the astrology of Chiron through all the houses and the signs. We'll talk about Tau Ceti and the starseed activation. And it comes with a PowerPoint. It comes with me giving the presentation. And at the end of the month, we come together for a Zoom webinar, and we really dig into the deeper connect. And we start to weave like a really intricate pattern together based on all of the content that we've all been sharing, and that I've been sharing, and that people have been basically working with. So that's $5 a month. So you're getting all of that for $5, including the Starseed Fellowship, $5 a month. And you have access to the replays whenever you want. And this community that's growing is it's just so pleasantly surprising. Right? I had no idea what it was going to be like. I just knew, I was just like, there's a lot of us out there that are like putting out content, but there isn't a lot right now that is really giving other people like opportunity to create a space. And so that's what it's for, really. And it's so far so good. It's pretty new. So you can go to Subscribestar, just look up Catalyst Energies, and you can find all the information there. And again, that will be linked in the description box on the replay once we get to that point. So, but that's what I got so far for my offerings. So I'm going to let that go. Anything exciting in the chat still, KIAYANA, before we say our goodbyes, or anything that people have going on, or anything that stuck out to you before we sign off? This has been awesome.
I just want to say thank you guys so much for tuning in and spending this time, because there's no such things as accidents or coincidences. I don't believe it when it comes to us joining together like this in this space. We each bring such a unique light and power to the space. So I just thank you guys so much for tuning in and being on this journey with us.
I second that. Here, right? And sometimes, most of the time, almost all of the time, it really is the quality of that resonance that we create together that's the most meaningful. And it doesn't have to follow the old protocol, which I think is a big part of the lesson now, right? Is that we get to decide the quality of our relationships and our own voice. And if there was ever if there's ever a symbol for Leo season, it is truly us at the center of our own stage, expressing ourselves, right? And when we're all doing that from the core of our being as a extension and part of the great spirit of this life, then I don't think we can go wrong. So, but
Agreed.
certainly bumpy times ahead, my friends. That is to be expected. I feel like we already know that, right? We already know that. It's more about, can we leave space for joy? That would be great.
Yes.
I think that's going to have way more impact than getting caught up in like, oh, what's going to happen? And things are going to happen, right? What are we going to do? We're going to create a space of joy no matter what. I think that's a pretty good mission as far as I'm concerned.
Agreed.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone. We really, truly appreciate each and every one of you for everything that you're bringing to the table. Very, very much. I know I can speak for both of us when I say we love you. We appreciate you taking the time and being here and creating this space with us. So with that, I'm going to sign off. KIAYANA, if you have anything else to add, that would be great. Otherwise,
well, I think I'm good. I don't have
right.
anything else to add.
Yeah.
Just really happy and full of gratitude. Sending love and light to everyone.
Yes, absolutely. Sending truly life, love, light, and life to everyone. So please, guys, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other the best you can. We got this, right? We got this. Don't hesitate to reach out for support. One of the things that the Catalyst Classroom does provide too is I have a private Telegram group that is only open to subscribers. And that's a safe container where people can share more like personal details about their journey or ask for support that is not open to the public commenting on it, right? It's really meant to be a safe space. So I forgot to mention that too, that I have that as an option as well. So, but KIAYANA, thank you. This has been truly remarkable and so special. And I just appreciate your openness to all of this and your friendship, obviously. And, you know, KIAYANA and I have done this many times before. I'm fairly certain. Like,
oh yeah, this isn't the first rodeo.
Yeah, no,
not the first rodeo.
No, not at all. Not at all. Well, with that in mind, I'm going to sign us off here. So I thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate all of you. Appreciate you, KIAYANA. I'll see you guys on the flip side. Take care of yourselves.